All right, so this video is going to actually start factoring a trinomial. And first I'm going to show you box method, and then you're going to practice it. And then I'm going to show you factor by grouping, and then you're going to practice it. Then you're going to make the decision about which method you like better, and then you'll stick with that method. But we want to expose you to both. So here is a quadratic that is already in standard form. So already in standard form. I would check to see if there's a greatest common factor. There is nothing that goes into all three of these terms. And what we're going to end up doing here is solving. So we're not just factoring, but we're actually solving. So our first step would be to factor, and then we'll use those factors to actually solve the quadratic. So I'm already in standard form. I can name my A, my B, and my C. And you'll notice the first step is the same regardless of the method you're doing. So the first step would be to multiply your A and your C together. So 5 times negative 10 is negative 50. And then I'm going to make a list of all the factors of negative 50. And I'm going to do it a little bit different than I did with the GCF. I'm going to do it in this way because I want to keep them in pairs. And ultimately what we're looking for is two factors that multiply to give you negative 50, but add to give you 23. So you'll see what I mean. We'll start listing them, and I like to go in numerical order. I can have a negative 1 and a 50, or I could have a 1 and a negative 50. Because remember, the only way to get a negative number is a negative times a positive. I could have a negative 2 and a 25, or I could have a positive 2 and a negative 25. I could have a negative 5 and 10, and I can have 5 and negative 10. So now that I have this list of pairs of factors, I'm looking for the pair that adds to 23. So some people like to actually write out all of the sums next to them. I'm just going to take you right to the answer, and the more of these you do, the more quickly you see the answer. Negative 2 plus 25 gives us 23. So these are the two factors that I'm interested in using. Negative 2 and positive 25. And yeah, the sign matters. You've got to make sure that it's the positive 25. Because if I had gone with this pair, I would have had negative 20. I'm sorry, 23. I would have had negative 23, and that's not what I want. So we're going to jump down here to box method. So we're going to do this method first, and then we'll go on to factor by grouping. So this is always the setup of box method. You always start on the inside of the box, and we work our way out. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So this ax squared is always in the middle box, and our ax squared was 5x squared. I'm getting that from up here. And then in the bottom corner, I'm going to put the c, and our c was negative 10. And again, I'm just getting that from our original equation. So now these are always going to be x's. And the two numbers that we chose, the two magic numbers that multiply to give us the a times c and added to give us the b, those are the numbers that go here. Now I get asked a lot, does it matter which I put in which? No, it doesn't. Because ultimately we're going to be pulling out greatest common factors here. And you'll end up with the same pairs of binomials. It doesn't really matter the order you put them. So this is the part where we're going to pull out the greatest common factor of each row and the greatest common factor of each column. So I like to start here and go clockwise. So I look at negative 2x and negative 10, and the biggest thing they have in common is negative 2. And I like to have a general rule. If there's a negative next to it here, pull it out. Or if you have a negative here, pull that out. Okay, then I'm looking at these two. And the biggest thing they have in common is a 5 and an x. Okay, so now I'm going to do my columns. If I look at 5x squared and negative 2x, I don't have a lot in common. In fact, the only things I have in common are 1x, and I'm just going to put an x. And then I'm going to do 25x and negative 10. And the biggest thing they have in common is 5. Now, the nice thing about this is you can go and check it to make sure that you actually did it correctly, because this works just like multiplication in the box. 5x times x should give you 5x squared. X times negative 2 should give you negative 2x. 5 times 5x should give you 25x. And 5 times negative 2 should give you negative 10. All right, so what you've just done is factor, but we're going to actually solve these. So you're going to take each of these binomials, and we're going to set them equal to 0. So really what we're doing is set factors equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so we're going to set that equal to 0, and I'm going to solve for x, doing it algebraically, trying to get x by itself. So one of my factors is 2/5, and we're just going to leave that as a fraction. My other factor was x plus 5, and I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides, and I'm going to get negative 5. So these are solutions. So if you're told to solve, these are solutions. When you have these, the 5x minus 2 and the x plus 5, those are what we call factors. Those two binomials are factors. So factors end up looking like this, and solutions end up looking like this. So you're going to go practice that method yourself, and then you're going to come back and you're going to watch a video about factor by grouping.